Good evening, Facebook, and welcome to this week's Tots Think on These Things. It is I, your girl, your host, Marilyn Gregory, aka MG. I am here with you every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you a word, something I hope will lift you up, something that I hope will encourage you and give you hope. And I always say I'm not going to hold you long. Tonight's not going to be any different. I promise not to hold you too long. So tonight I just want to talk to you about running your race of per- perseverance, right? And we've all have challenges, right? We all have difficulties. We all have something that we are going through and that maybe that we are struggling with. If you're not going through something, if you live long enough, trust me, you will go through something. We all have dealt with something, or we're dealing with it, or we will be dealing with something, right? And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it can feel like I don't know how I'm going to survive this, right? Whether it be a career, whether it be relationships, whether it just be paying the bills, whether it be a health issue, um, whatever that challenge may be. Maybe you've been uh, working on something. We're coming to the end of the year. Maybe you had a goal set. Maybe it's something that you intended to get done or accomplished before this year ended. Maybe it's demands of family or just life or pressures. It could be so many different things, right? For so many different people. And sometimes it can be more than one thing at one time. And we can find ourselves just overwhelmed, just struggling to, Lord, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to get through this, right? And Hebrews 12 and 1. Hebrews 12 and 1. It gives us um, a much needed encouragement. A much needed encouragement when we're in difficult situations like this, when we're going through things like this, right? And Hebrews 12 and 1 says, therefore, since we are surrounded, that means it's on all sides of us, y'all, by such a great cloud of witnesses. There are witnesses all around us. There are witnesses in our past. There are witnesses in our present. There are witnesses all around us. None of us are going through anything that's unique. That's what Hebrews 12 and 1 is telling us. So we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. Whatever it is you're going through, I know it may seem like you're on an island. It may seem like nobody else is dealing with this, nobody else is going through this, nobody else has experienced this. But Hebrews 12 and 1 tells us there are a cloud of witnesses that surround us. And it says, let us throw off everything that hinders, everything that's holding us back, everything that's keeping us from moving forward. It says, let us throw those things, get rid of those things, discard those things, right? And not only just those things, those outward things maybe that hinder us, right? And it could be inward things as well. But also it says, and the sin that so easily entangles us. All of us got a stronghold, if you will, that we deal with. Paul said he prayed to get rid of his, right? But God said his grace was sufficient. So maybe you're dealing with a stronghold, a sin, or something in your life that you struggle with. And every time the opportunity comes up for you to do better, right, you still struggle with that thing. And it says, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. There's a race marked out for you. There's a race marked out for me. I can't run your race for you, and you can't run my race for me. I can't run my race for my daughters. They can't run my race for me, right? We all have to run this individual race that has been marked out for us. And those witnesses that I talked about that are surrounding us, those are believers. Those are believers who come before us. Those are believers who are here with us right now today that are living testimonies of how faithful God is. So no, regardless of what it is you're going through, like I said before, there is someone who else who has already gone through it, or someone who is currently going through it. Sit down, read in your word. There is a witness there for you. A witness, someone who can tell you what they went through, how they got through it, and how faithful God was as they were going through. Because sometimes you're not going to be plucked out of that thing right away. Sometimes you're going to have to actually go through the race that was marked for you. It was already planned for you. So you may have to go through that. But the good thing is that God said, wherever you are, he will be there also. If we go into the pits of hell, there he is also. So we got to remember that there's a bigger story. It's more than just us, right? It's more than just our forward no more. There's more than just what's going on in my life. There's a larger story. We are all connected, right? There's a larger story. There's a legacy of faith that spans from generations to generations to generations. And your faith, and you standing strong, and you running the race that was marked for you, will become a legacy of your generation to the next generation, to the next generation. So let's stand strong so that we can leave a legacy of faith for those who are going to come after us. Just like there was a legacy of faith from those who came before us, right? So we got to learn how to put aside those things that hinder us, those sinful distractions, those things that hold us back. Because when we hold on to those things and we don't let those things go, we cannot fully run the race that has been marked for us. We cannot fully attain that thing that God has for us if we're trying to carry hindrances and baggages and sins along with us. We got to throw them away. And he says to cast them onto him because his burden is light and his yoke is easy. So those things can be internal, like fear and shame, disappointment, aggravation. Because you work so hard to maybe attain a thing. And I don't want to go back to this whole election thing, because there's a lot of people out there working diligently hard, not just for themselves, but for society as a whole. And I know some of those people, because I know some of those people, I work with some of those people, are feeling like, man, I did all of this. Not necessarily that I needed these things, right? Not necessarily that I needed these programs, but because I know that there's other people out there who need these things. I know there's other people out there whose lives are going to be so much harder if these things are taken away or if they're not provided these things. And for that reason, they work hard. And to see and to feel like the very people that you were working for didn't have your back, didn't support the fact that you were working for them, can be very discouraging. It can be very heartbreaking, right? But we've got to still remember that God sees further than what we can see. He understands more than what we can understand. And we got to trust him. We got to keep moving forward no matter what, no matter how tough it gets, no matter how hopeless it may seem. We have got to continue to move forward because God is not done yet. You hear me? He is not done yet. There is so much more that he is going to do. And we have got to continue to trust him, and we have got to continue to run that race, even when we get discouraged, even when we feel like we're running in vain, right? Because sometimes it can feel like you're running this race in vain. But if this is the race that God has set for you, it is not in vain. He has a plan for you. He has a reason that he has assigned this race to you. And whatever, I can't say what your race is, only you know that. So whatever your race is that you are running, when it seems bleak, when it seems hopeless, don't give up. And when it feels like you're being worn down, it's like you're carrying a lot of weight, begin to throw off those things that hinder you. And if you're not sure what those, begin to pray and ask God, what is it that's hindering? What is it that is keeping me from running this race that you have put before me? Do a self-check. Do a self-evaluation. And you begin to throw off those things that are hindering you. Begin to throw off those sins that are those strongholds that have gripped you, right? So that you can finish this race that God has given you, that He has set before you. And remember, you are surrounded by witnesses of God's faithfulness. Whether you go back into the Bible and you look up those witnesses, or you can look around in your community, in your circle. I bet there's some witnesses there too that can tell you just how faithful God is, even in the darkest hour. He is faithful, and He will get you through whatever it is you're going through. And I know, like I said, we're coming up on the end of the year, we're coming up on the holidays, and sometimes we can feel like the whole year is gone and we haven't accomplished anything that we wanted to accomplish. But be of good cheer. God is not done with you yet. Start where you are now. Maybe you didn't do some of the things that you intended to do. Maybe some things happened, but you still, look, every day that you wake up is a new opportunity to get that thing done. Right? It's the new, so remember Hebrews 12:1, right? You got to run this race, and you have to run it with perseverance. And y'all, that's all I got for you tonight. Y'all know that I love you. It's not a thing in the world that you can do to change that. So I want you to go out there and be that change that you want to see. Nobody else can do it for you. Nobody else can run your race for you. You have to be that change that you want to see, and you have to persevere, and you have to complete the race that was put before you. So I love y'all. Now, thank you for even do to change that. Peace out, and I will see y'all next week.
Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." Join me, Marilyn Gregory, aka Pearl, on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as we explore these things and renew our minds.